Good morning. Cheers, everybody. Hey, Sid, have I missed a launch, have I? Or I don't recall seeing anything. Oh well. Whoops, bummer. Or is it test fire? Oh, 1 hour to launch. Oh, it's going to be a quick stream today then. Are they doing a proper launch? Is it a It's a very close to the last one. What has happened to my... Sorry, my camera keeps freezing. I can never tell what's happening. Hi, everyone. Sorry, I'm a bit flustered. I just ran downstairs and back up again to get something while the countdown was going. So I had to get back to my desk before it finished. Falcon Heavy. Right. Oh, my God. I'm not even thinking. Right. Okay. What are they launching? What payload? Sorry, I'm a bit flustered. How is everyone doing? I've had a very busy last few days, and so I'm just a bit scattered, knackered, all that stuff. New YouTube layout. What new YouTube layout? Have they updated things again, have they? NOAA satellite. Cool, okay. Must be heavy. I've not looked. There's a new... Okay, I'll have to check it out. They keep changing things all the time. The YouTube folks. Clearly they're not using the right people for their, test subjects and feedback. Video is behind your audio. Try refreshing your browser. Yeah, try refreshing. For anyone that's having problems, just try refreshing your browser. There's no drop frames. I'm getting a solid 60 frames per second when I'm sending. YouTube says the data's good. The AI in sync there. Am I AI? I am an AI robot. Please provide your bank account details. Sorry. Wow. Little sleep, very little sleep. Let me say hi to folks in chat. We'll get that done. So then I can, because I'll forget otherwise. Hello. Oh, Sion's first one in the chat today. Ooh. Christian, hello. Deshipu, hi. Graham, good morning. Antonio, hi. Peter, Dave Harris, Alan, Gerald42, hello. Sid, Dodgy Brothers Engineering, good morning. You're up early. Johnny, hi. Brad, hello Brad. How are you? Steve from STG Electronics, hello. Dutch Taurus, hi. What's M-U with 2 dots and H? What is that? I don't know. Ian, Scott Johnson, hello. Hi. David Esser, hello. No, Christian Bransdale, hello. Oh, no, Christopher. Oh my God. I do that to you every time. Christopher Bransdale. It's always your name. I mess up. Oh God, I gotta stop. Breathe. Calm. Okay. Christopher, hello. X-Micron, hi. Mr. England, hello. Wow, I'm having a bad run this morning, and seriously, my video here, something to do with my camera, or OBS on my camera, it just keeps freezing all the time. So, like, it locks up for a second and then continues. It's quite discerning, annoying, frustrating. I can't talk this morning. Gibberish is coming out. Seriously. My internet's generally okay. Generally. Hey, Bruce. Just walking through Montreal. Okay, super hot. Well, it's not hot. It's cold here, although it's better. Like, it's 10 degrees this morning. Not as bad as last week. Had a couple of 2-degree days here over the last few days. I don't know if Mike Rankin is popping in or not. to the chat today. If you're there, Mike, if you're lurking, say hi. Let me know that you're there. I want to show everyone something I got from Mike. Something I bought from Mike. I didn't get from Mike. I bought from Mike, and it's pretty cool. So I just wanted to show it to you all, which I'll do that in a moment. It's not quite a mail thing. I've already opened it, so I'm not going to open it. But I do want to show it to all of you. It was actually nice here yesterday. It got to 17 degrees, which was very unusual for this time of year. And I actually walked up the road in a t-shirt to get my lunch yesterday. But it was cold in the morning and it was quite cold in the evening. So, see, I don't believe you, Ian, because it never gets hot in Scotland. It's either snowing, freezing, or it's just your summer is our winter here. So yeah, I don't think it's hot. I don't believe you. Must be just all the equipment in your office that's keeping you warm. That's what I think. So it's TinyWATCH kind of day, kind of. Well, so I have a batch of TinyWATCHes ready to put on my store or to release their stock. These are all the new version. These are all the P7s. But can you see that? Read that, P7 on the label, maybe P7. There you go. So this is the new revision of the hardware that has the haptics on it, which are pretty cool. Unfortunately, there's only 8, and that's all I can make right now. Well, that's all I can make cases for because my printer's still not working properly. The good news is I have spare parts here. These, it's 4 different things here, and another 4 on the floor over there. These are all the possible things it could be that's wrong with my printer. All paid for by me, not by Bamboo. So I have new, like, hotbed. They think it's this. They think it's the heatbed signal cable. They think it's a cable that's faulty. This cable here. I don't know. I don't believe it. I don't believe it's the cable suddenly is faulty. It's not the way the cable's seated. But anyway, interface, hotbed interface, mini board. I've got 2 of those. And then I've got the main hotbed interface controller. So it's failing to read one of the 3 sensors on the hot plate, on the bed. And because of that, I can't level the bed, which means if I print, the bed's not level, which we all know what happens when you print when the bed's not level. Sometimes you get prints that are maybe usable, most of the time you don't. You get warped prints, you get, it's just not good. So, there are some things I've been printing with it, things that doesn't really matter, like bits and pieces for my Kazaa case, the enclosure downstairs, things inside that have just been clamped onto things so you can't see them, and if they're warped it doesn't matter. But that's about all I can do, and I can't print anything else. So I can't print Reflow Master Pro cases, I can't print TinyWATCH cases, I can't
HMS
print...
says let's all help at Unexpected Maker rebuild his printer. D.
How are you going to help? Unless you want to volunteer to come and do it, because to replace that cable, that one cable, there's about 27 steps, and the whole printer's going to get pulled apart. And I'm not looking forward to that. So I need to find a block of a few hours to do that. But it's been frustrating. This is my 3rd week now of not having a 3D printer. And so, yeah, so it's on a tangent, but kind of not. I'll tie it back together. I did my first metal print. Oh my God. I milled my first aluminium on my Milo Moo on the weekend. And I've got lots of video, and I'm editing a video about it. So don't worry, you'll all get to see, probably later in the week. It was pretty exciting. I'm not going to tell you how successful it was yet. It was exciting though. And the reason I'm tying this in is because during that video I mention a lot how I don't have a printer. And I did it on purpose because I was going to do one of those things in the video where it goes ting. You know, how many times have I mentioned that I don't have a printer? Ting. Don't have a printer. Ting. I thought that'd be funny. But I'm actually finding it quite depressing. So I don't know if I'm going to do that now. But anyway, no, it wasn't. It's second chips. It was first aluminium chips, first metal chips. Rat Madness. Hello, Rat Madness. Hello, John. John Clayton. Is anyone else that bumped in that I missed? Don't think so. So anyway, that was exciting. But this whole printer thing is just... So I've only got 8 watches. That's it. I can make plenty. I'm going to make more PCBs today.
Alan Madsen says, are you still not having a 3D print? Slightly smiling face.
You know what? I don't have a 3D printer still. I forgot to take my paste out. One moment, I need to go take my paste out. I knew there was going to be something. I'm back. I should have just left it out overnight because it was cold enough. Anyway, okay, paste is out. So, yeah, I'm going to build more TinyWATCH panels today. Building the PCBs isn't a problem, and that way they can be tested, and I need to solder the haptic motors on and blah blah blah. Quite painful to assemble them actually. Poor me. But I can't do cases, and that's just frustrating. I love Scotch. Got 3 Bamboo Lab Exons, got a total of 10k hours in them. Haven't even done maintenance on them yet. Well, congratulations. I've had stacks of issues with mine from day one. Had parts replaced under warranty. Had parts replaced that they wouldn't replace under warranty. Done lots of maintenance on mine. So, yeah. You know, it is what it is. I mean, I've had plenty of good printing out of it. Don't get me wrong. You know, it's when things have gone bad, I fixed it. Just things have gone bad more than I would have expected. But this thing, we can't seem to fix it. There, I said it. What did you say? How many times can you get me to say I don't have a printer, a 3D printer, that I don't have a 3D printer, that I don't have a 3D printer, I don't have a 3D printer. Yeah, this one, they just, I don't know, they're clutching at straws to what's wrong with it. So, anyway, had 10-year Kickstarter, finally got delivered. The oscilloscope watch, 10-year Kickstarter? What? You backed it 10 years ago and it finally got delivered. What was that? What project was that? Oscilloscope watch. I'll have to look up that later. Okay, I want to show you this first. So I got one of the. I bought one of these off. Where have you gone? I bought one of these from Mike. He's listed them on his Electrons stores. For those of you who don't know who Mike is, Mike Rankin. He does ESP32 and other projects. He designs stuff and he releases his files open source or whatever. He makes some pretty cool things, and I like to support as many makers as possible. So I jumped on and bought one of these, and it's a little tiny thermal imaging board. Well, I should just show it to you. So I have a watch there, but I'm going to move my watch out the way just for the moment. I've got a very tight lens on the camera, so I can't zoom out at all. This, I've still got the cover on it. Oh, you're going to stay in focus? So, it's got fingerprints on it, but I haven't taken the plastic off yet. So this is the board. It's pretty cute. And it's got I've got a very shallow depth of field at the moment here, sorry. It's got a thermal image sensor on it. So we're going to, I will unplug my watch, which is still going to run off battery, which is fine. And I'm going to plug this in. I might have to refocus the camera. And so it's got a separate on-off switch. So I'll turn it on. And, oops, it's upside down. Okay, it's going to be upside down, sorry. Let me see if I can refocus. Oh, not quite right. There we go. And so, as you can see, it's a thermal. I don't know how I'm going to, I can't really keep this in focus, sorry. See my individual fingers. Oh, it keeps stuttering. Wonder why it's stuttering. Wasn't doing that the other day. I don't know what version of the software it's using, but anyway, it's a similar size screen to what's on the watch. Obviously, just no touch on it. It's a non-touch version. It's got battery support, a bunch of other stuff, and it's pretty cool. So I just wanted to show it. Yeah, thermal camera on an ESP32. I don't know how accurate the temperature is. I've got nothing to compare it to. Oh, okay, well, as I said, we're gonna have problems with the lens today, maybe, but that's okay. I wanted it close for the watch. So let me just stick the link in. I want to stick the link of the product. He's hand making it at the moment, pretty much per order. There's a link to the product page. Although he does say, I think he's got one in stock on there. It's very cool. It's quite a cool device, and I was having a fun play just pointing at stuff the other day when I got it, and kind of looking at at what was generating heat and what wasn't. So yeah, thumbs up for me, Mike. Thumbs up. Okay, so TinyWATCH. There is so much that's changed in the firmware. I'm just going to keep it plugged in. Just better. So much has changed in the firmware since the last time I showed you all where it's at. And I'm now shipping the current firmware on the watch rather than the initial test firmware on it. It's got a long way to go still of being anything as a proper you could use as your daily watch, although you can technically use it as your daily watch now. If you don't need all of the features that a Google or Apple Watch has, then it works fine. You can stick a decent battery in there. You can fit a 400 or 4 to 500 milliamp hour battery, and you can easily get all day out of it, depending on what you do with it and whatever. But there's still sacks of things firmware wise that have to get done, and the firmware is going a bit slow. That's life, Lots of things I'm juggling, so I only get a certain amount of time to work on each thing. But there's some cool things that have happened since. I don't know, I can't remember the last time I showed what was what. But there are the different watch faces, which you can single click on some of them to change settings, and double clicking will change the watch face. So here's a version of the Windows watch face, Windows 3.1 I think it was. So that's done by Pro Engineer, by Matt. So you just double click to change the face, and yeah, that's the Casio face. Matt did that one as well, just for fun, just for the digital version. As you can see, it's showing the battery charge, and it cycles through different settings at the top there, and it looks pretty cool. I'm just going to switch back to this face just to show some stuff, because it's got more clearance around the edge. One of the new things I've added recently is when you hold, I should probably turn that off to start with because you can't see it. Okay, so when I touch the screen, you see arrows appear, and it shows you which way you can swipe. So, and if you let go, they disappear, right? So it just gives you an indication of which way you can swipe. The settings, I've redone all the controls on the settings. They're all cached now, so they don't have to redraw all the time when there's this thing scrolling, so it's much faster scrolling. And I've got multiple setting screens now, so you can see there's a watch settings, there's an audio settings, there's a haptics settings. If you have a version of the watch that's got haptics, 60s on the line, they want their primitive display technology back. You couldn't figure OLEDs out. What? I couldn't figure OLEDs out? Is that you're asking me why I didn't put an OLED on it? Really? Okay. Like, if that was your question, yeah, maybe ask it rather than be a smart ass. Yeah. Anyway, the settings. There's still some legacy stuff, like there's the IMU screen on there. There's, look at this. The fingerprints aren't great. For anyway, there's
Super chat!
Thanks, I love Scotch. Appreciate that. Well, that's today. I'm gonna release the 8 I've got. There are already people waiting for a. There are people on the wait list already. There are more people on the wait list than I've got watches for at the moment. And as I mentioned, I'm going to be making more watches today, but I can't make any cases because I don't have a working 3D printer. So there's this app framework now where apps can be made. So here's like a compass app. Whoa, I have to this is not being calibrated. Anyway, there's a compass, and then up top there's a whole calibration thing, which can't really show you that happening. It's supposed to be on your wrist. You can kind of do it like this. You've got to get all the circles together the same, which I'm not doing a very good job of. But let's say that was my calibration, and then you can see it's working a bit better now. So yeah, you got to calibrate, but you don't have to do that once. Are they serialized? No, well, I've already been selling watches. These are just the P7 version. Click and hold to go back out of the app. Setting logs. Anyway, the point is, as a watch, it's usable, right? It tells the time. It's got battery management on there. It does step counting and stuff, but doesn't really do much. Too bad you don't live in the US. I would sell you my spare Carbon X1 for a few watches. A few watches, only a few. Yeah, the Casio mode looks really good. Yeah, Matt did a really great job on that. So anyway, there's stacks more that has to happen with it. God, maybe I should have washed my hands before I touched the screen. Anyway, it really picks up the... yeah, it does look good. The point is you can make your own custom faces, but it's all done in firmware. So this latest version of the firmware, which is 0.5, is now actually on...
John Clayton says, what is battery life as designed?
Question mark. How long's a piece of string? It doesn't come with a battery, right? I can't ship a battery with it. So how long the battery will last depends on what battery you connect to it, what size of the battery, what settings you run on your watch. Do you stay on the internet for long or not? You know, how active are you that the watch keeps waking up? You know, how often do you lift your wrist to look at the time? So it's not designed for any length of battery because it's not a fixed thing. Does that make sense? It's not like you buy an Apple Watch that has a fixed battery in it that has fixed software in it that, you know, that they've run through months and months and months of whatever testing on that exact one configuration to determine the life of a battery, right? This is completely ad hoc. So the answer to your question is yes, that long. Like, you can't design for a lifetime of a battery because you don't know what a user's going to do. So there's a whole bunch of settings that can't actually... Some of the settings on here don't actually do anything right now. Like, they will. But for instance, the haptics, the enabled works. Like, you can turn the haptics off. Mike. Hello, we were just talking about you. I just showed your thermal camera. You missed it. I put the link further back on there. I'm not taking offense, but you're asking impossible to answer questions. What is the current draw in its current state? Current draw is different if I'm touching the screen or not touching the screen. The current draw is different depending on the face that's currently being shown. How many times it's been updated, how bright the face is, depending on what state of ramping down before it goes to sleep, right? Once again, I can't answer the question. There's 100 different current draws depending on what is happening on the watch at any one time, and I don't know what a user's going to do. Like, that watch face will take different amount of current to that watch face. Will take a different amount of current to that watch face. So it's not an offense thing. It's just don't ask the question because I can't answer it, and it's not something that I'm like. We've been through this before. Like, Alan asked this question ages ago, again repeatedly, just to wind me up. It's not something I can answer, and it's not something I'm interested in answering because I can't give any value. It's not. There's nothing in it that's a fixed thing, right? Does that make sense? Oh, the battery life, 7. Oh, I didn't understand the question then. Thanks, Steve, for clarifying. 7. The battery life is 7. For instance, staying on this screen, right, will completely chew the battery because this has to run at 160 megahertz and is updating the screen like, you know, at 30 frames a second, whatever it is, or 20 frames a second. So this will chew my battery in about 40 minutes. So someone's going to sit and walk around with this on going, you know, hey, this is really cool. Look, I'm playing all these different things, blah, 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 blah. They'll chew the battery. So again, it's impossible to tell you, to give you an answer. And I'm not even interested in guessing because I don't know. Right, back to the haptics here. So for instance, you can turn it on and off and you can tell it whether it's going to buzz when it boots, buzz when it wakes. But things like on alarm, well, I haven't even built the alarm system yet. You can't set an alarm right now. That'll be coming at some point. And then like things like on the hour, well, that doesn't do anything yet either. And on event, that doesn't do anything yet because there's no event system yet. So there are things that are there but aren't actually implemented yet. The same with like beep on the hour, right? For the little buzzer to beep. So I'm still doing, you know, an alarm. They're not functional yet. You can turn those arrows, you can turn them on and off. So now they're not appearing, you can see. And now they are. So something's working, something's not. Some things have to go to a web interface because they're just not going to be intuitive to try to set up on the watch. Yeah, Wi-Fi will eat the battery, of course. But what's interesting with the Wi-Fi is I built a it's going to be maybe hard to explain. It's a task-based queue system for Wi-Fi connectivity. So if you want to go to the internet, for instance, to get the weather for open weather, like for instance, there's one of the widgets is a weather widget. What it'll do is it'll go and say, I need to get this data, and you fire off a request to get some data, and it goes and knows, okay, I'm not connected to the internet. It does all this it does this in a task, so it's a separate thread, right? So it goes off and connects to the internet, and then gets the data you want, and unless it's been explicitly told to not disconnect, it'll then disconnect from the internet. And it does all that in the background, non-blocking, without any intervention from the user, which is really cool. It took a lot to get that working. And so you can do all different types of requests for data, whatever else. You can request JSON data back, you can request whatever data back, and it'll fire off and do it. But it also knows if it is connected to the internet already. So like if I click the web icon, or the up there, you'll see it'll turn on. It gives me an IP address, but technically I don't have to go to that address. I can just go to, so that's starting up the web server. So by starting the web server, you're basically telling it, connect to Wi-Fi and don't allow it to disconnect. So if something goes and says, hey, I need to get some data, it knows it's already connected, and then it'll know not to disconnect once it gets the data. And so I've started working on some web settings. And when I say started, what I mean is, when I say started, I mean that there's an empty page here, an empty page here, and I've started working on adding the open weather stuff and validation and stuff. And I'm trying to get some of this stuff to be as... I'm not even going to go down that conversation at the moment. Whatever, don't worry, forget what I'm about to say. So like there's no way you could set up the open weather stuff on the device, like entering an API key. Like I'm not interested in trying to build a little keyboard and stuff that you can enter things on the watch. It's not a great user experience. Try connecting it to ESP Now. What do you mean connecting it to ESP Now? ESP Now means it needs to connect to something else with ESP Now. So what would it connect to? ESP Now is from ESP to ESP, not from ESP to the internet. Yeah, sometimes like today, like on a Wednesday, because I get up so early in the morning, by 6 o'clock in the evening, my Apple Watch is, giving me a 5% warning. So I've got a lot of stuff to do now on here, firmware-wise. But as I said, look, the watch is usable. I guess the only thing that would be really nice to add quickly, as soon as I can, is some way of setting an alarm. What I don't know is how much of an impact the haptics are going to have on battery life. I mean, they're going to chew the battery much more than not having haptics, which is why it can be disabled, and why you can turn off and on things that you want it to buzz to. What is cool about the haptics is, let me just... I'm going to be looking at code now, folks. Is haptics are designed, the mode I'm using it in, which is the real-time mode, is it can play tunes, right? It's like playing a tune like on a speaker, but it's buzzing them instead. It's the same principle. And so I've added to the firmware, there are two things that you can do. You can play a tune where you pass it a vector of integers, or you can just play it by trigger. So the trigger is the ones that are on settings, right? So there's a whole bunch of built-in sounds for boot, on alarm, on hour, on event, on wake, or you can just pass it a tune in the sequence. And so I've just put some default sounds in. So they're like, this is a buzz, and then this is a delay, and a buzz, and a delay, and a buzz, and a delay, to be able to do whatever. It'd be really cool if I allowed these to be stored in settings, in a version of the settings, so users could actually create their own tunes to play back for the haptics. But the longer the haptics playing back for, the longer it's driving the motor, the more battery it's chewing, and it'll chew the battery faster than Wi-Fi will. Just dropped a 500ml bottle of olive oil, glass, and oil everywhere. Oh no! Hang on, aren't you walking through somewhere at the moment? So, and of course, if you have a version of the watch, a P4 version of the watch already, that doesn't have haptics, this will just get silently ignored. It'll try to initialize it, and if it can't, it just says that haptics isn't available, and it ignores all of the haptic calls. Well, it depends where you dropped it. Did you drop it inside your place, or did you drop it outside on the street? Any idea how much of their old memory is currently used with the watch software in its current state? Available well, it's got 2 megabytes of PS RAM on here. There's no really way to map the memory usage, unfortunately. But if you look here on the build, it tells you this, but what this means really, who knows, right? Because this doesn't count actual runtime stuff, I don't think. But I think there's plenty of headroom. There's also a lot of stuff in here that doesn't necessarily have to be in here. We've got a bitmap system, and we just close that off. There's a bitmaps, right, for different things. Like this is watch face stuff. This is the imagery that the Casio face is using, and Matt added RLE decoding and stuff. These are all the open weather icons, right? So there's a lot of stuff in there, as you can see, stacks of it, just general bitmaps. There's probably a lot more fonts than we need, really, but they take up a little bit of space. But still, not even using. So it's 8 meg of flash, and it's been partitioned off. Where's the partition? Where's the partition data kept? TinyWATCH partitions. Where's TinyWATCH partitions? Oh my god, it's right in front of me. So we're using I think we're using the spiffs section for user data. I'll have to confirm. Michael, are you here? I don't think Michael's online at the moment. I'll have to confirm. Anyway. Well, the Sensor SP32 ELF size shows section sizes. Should be a similar one for the RISC part of the standard package. Okay, I don't know. There's that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. But I'm pretty sure we're fine on space at the moment. What else? Anyway, so I've lost my train of thought now. Oh, Bruce just got into where he was staying. Bag out a hole. Damn it. You're going to be very popular wherever you're staying. Only bath towels to clean it up. You can start cooking on the floor. He said it was hot, right? Wow. Oil is the worst thing to clean up. That is just... wow. Sorry to hear, mate. Sorry to hear. So there's a few things I wanted to code up today, actually. I was thinking of doing coding. Should I do some coding? As in... yeah. So there's quite a few things on... where's my browser gone? Oh, there you go, Mike. The page is still open. GitHub.com. What am I doing? That's not right. TinyWATCH S3. Wait, what is it? TinyWATCH -S3. TinyWATCH S3. There you go. That's the GitHub repository for the project. If I go to the firmware, official firmware, which actually had a commit for me last night. I've been committing stuff, updated documentation. There's, if you look at the pull requests, not pull requests, issues, there's a lot of stuff I want to do still. And there's more to add that I haven't even thought about, that I've forgotten about. Like one of the things that isn't even on this list here, which I should really add, is... oh, am I not signed in? Hang on. Sorry. Is it going to let me sign in? Oh, that sucks. Okay, hold on one second. Okay, I'll have to do it in Safari. So I go new issue, add alarms. Oh my god, I can't even type. Alarm. Is that how you spell alarm? Add alarms. Add user settable alarms. Okay, I'm going to assign it to me, and label is going to be enhancement, add 1 or 2 alarms. I don't know how many we're going to be able to do. That can be set via the web interface. Yeah. But yeah, as you can see, there's stacks of things. Can't remember what the fake sleep was for. Right. I was going to look at seeing if I can implement a form of fake sleep that can still do all of the tracking of steps and stuff for a period of time before it goes into full sleep. Like if we can detect that you're moving, if you're in a movement mode, it won't actually let it go into deep sleep. but it'll shut everything else down. That's what the idea is. I want to add an RTTL ringtone player. I thought that'd be really cool. Brightness control in the settings page, that really needs to be in the web. Battery logging and usage stats. Matt's going to, I think, hopefully deal with that. Don't know how I'm going to do this one. Moving the clock specific settings in its own settings per face. I don't know if it's going to be possible or not. Got to make a Star Trek watch face, don't we? Like that's got to happen. This should actually be marked as done. Done now with the Casio face. I think Matt might still keep working on the Casio face, but I think we can call this closed. Does it have integrate MQT? It does have MQTT, and it was activated for a little while, but it's now been deactivated just because there's nothing it can actually do right now. Does that make sense? Like I had MQTT set up for, hang on. Settings, extra, haptics. Right, so here, there's MQTT settings. Again, it needs a web interface to be able to set it up. But I had that hard-coded and working so I could send messages to the watch in the notification, like in this messages thing. I did that way early on, but a lot of that messaging system is busted now. And like, because I got all this cache scrolling working, that's now broken. Stuff like this is not scrollable anymore. So that all needs to be fixed. Well, sure, but I won't add, like, I'll add the capability to have MQTT, like I'll put that in the settings and whatever else, but what people do with it, they're going to have to actually add that function to it themselves to the firmware. So this is an open source project, right? So the idea is that there's functionality you want, you add it to the firmware and you contribute it, right? Like, it's not a matter of everyone puts in requests for features and then Xeon adds them, because then that's not an open source project. That's a Xeon project. So, like, if you want to be able to have something external set an alarm, I'm not sure what the point of that would be. Like, but anyway, then yeah, you'd have to add that yourself. So I have a system in here. It might seem a little bit complicated, but I have a system that attaches settings to controls. So like when I'm on the screen and I change this nav arrow, right? Then what that's actually doing is changing where is it? This show nav arrows field, right? This variable. It's changing it and it's saving the settings, right? And the way it does that is that I have this special classes that come in a bool or an int. So there's an int, a float, and a bool and a string. And what they do is they connect a settings value. So there's a setter and a getter. Like you can change, you can get, right? To a control. So when you initialize a control, this is turning into like a mini OS, an open Xeon project. You like the idea, Dishipu? Well, it is integrated. It's not integrated as much as a screen. I don't agree, but it's integrated deep. But it's open-ended what it could do. So therefore, that's not something I'm going to just add 1,000 different things that it could possibly do. Like if you want a 3D printer, but that's not adding an alarm. Wait. Okay, that's different thing. Adding an alarm is where you set an alarm to go off at a certain time. What you're talking about is getting a notification. Yeah, you want to get a notification. Right, that's fair enough. That's, sure. I already had that going, but I had to remove it, right? But sure, you could have it receive a message on MQTT and pop up a little notification saying something happened, right? That's fine. Like, that'll be there at some point. But you said adding an alarm or setting an alarm. That's different. That's okay. That could just be an English thing, right? That's fine. Right, but the possibility of MQT is vast. All the things that MQTT could do, like having the watch control something or having specific things happen. Like, it's one thing to have a message come through, but maybe you want the haptics to fire. Maybe you want the screen to flash when something happens, right? Like maybe you want it to change to a particular app on the device. All those things you'll have to add yourself in code because they're very specific. Anyway, hey Mayteki. What did the int say to the bool and string when they met in the bar? I don't know. What did the int say to the string and the bool? So anyway, so when I create controls, right? So like, these are the controls for here's the nav arrow control, right? I tell it that its data connection is to this, right? And so it knows to get the data from it and to set the data, and if the data's changed, to save the data into the settings, right? So it's persistent. I want to build a similar thing for the web interface that either connects to this as well or whatever, where I can have it, rather than me having to hand code a lot of stuff for the web, like here, when I go to the widget settings, okay, this is calling widgets form to show that widget for the open weather, and I'm hand writing this code for the web, like for this, right? This HTML here is hand coded by me, and I have to, set up the ability to populate it. I have to set up this stuff here, and then it has to know how to update it on the server side. I'd like to have that all happen to get pulled automatically from the settings system, to not have to do that, right? So the settings system knows it's an int, so therefore it creates an input that's type number. It knows it's a bool, so therefore it creates a drop down, a yes or a no. By the way, I don't like tick boxes, check boxes. I much prefer doing this on if you were accessing the settings on your phone. Check boxes are terrible, I think. Anyway, depending on the phone and the browser. So yeah, I'd like this to be automated in a way, or at least automated enough that I don't have to write all this boilerplate stuff all the time for every single field. And I want to solve that before I expand the web stuff, because once I've done it by hand, there's very little incentive to go back and redo it all. But it's not as easy as... There's no place, though, that says these are all of the... Oh, there is. Okay, so, like, I'd need a way... So I'm just rambling at this point. But that's okay. So here's the settings for the battery open weather, right? Here's the struct that holds the settings for that gets saved. They get serialized as JSON into the settings files, right? Into the save data. So, but unfortunately, because C++ is not a runtime language, a runtime queryable language, you can't do nice things that you can in Python, like, say, give me a list of all the members of this struct, right? And what are they? Like in Python, I'm not having a whinge, I'm just saying, in Python, I could say, the open weather data, how many objects are in it? There are 3. Okay. Can you iterate through those objects, and what type of objects are they? Okay, well, and what are their names? Okay, the first one is pole frequency, and it's an integer. Oh, okay. The second one's API key, and it's a string. Okay, and then I could generate the HTML from that on the fly and reference, I could put pole frequency in the name of the field, and when it goes to save, it could use that name to look up that object in that data, right? That's what you can do with a runtime language. I can't do that with here, which means I need a place that lists all of the names already and what they are, that it can then generate that data from. And to do that, for the settings, I have to do it in code like this. Now, that's one thing, but how does the web interface know that all of this is for one group of settings? Like, this should all be grouped together as watch face settings. This should be grouped together as audio settings, right? So it becomes really complicated. Like right now, these are created on the settings page manually. So like if you look at all of these, right, 24-hour, left, right-handed rotation, and then I add them to the face settings. And then I create a whole bunch of other ones and I add them to the face settings audio. That's how it knows they're on that page. It'd be great if they were grouped and it knew what the group was and what the name of the group was. Does that make sense? With enough pointers and string parsing, you could implement that. Not really, I don't think. I mean, hi Andrew. Well, not easily, and not in an intuitive way. I don't know. Like like these could be grouped, right? So when I create a toggle, this toggle, right? I could pass it a group ID or a group name, and then I could say, give me a list of all of the controls that belong to that group, right? They could get added to a to a map. But that just gets it's getting really. What Green's Spun's 10th rule raises ugly head? What is that? Like the problem, Andrew, those pointers and string passing, all that stuff would have to happen. They'd still have to be built at compile time. All of that, there'd still have to be all the containers pre-built for all those things. You can't query them at runtime. Like you couldn't, even if you got the name. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that would work, Andrew. But anyway, any sufficiently complicated C or Fortran program contains an ad hoc, informally specified, bug-ridden, slow mutation of half of commonly. Oh, right. Okay. Google flat buffers. Okay, I'm not sure what that is. Also remember, I'm not a C++ programmer. It's really not my forte, so the fact that any of this even works is pretty surprising. But what I want is for a lot of this, I want this stuff to happen with this a little, like right now it's there are a lot of steps that a user has to, like someone who's working on firmware, if someone wanted to add just one setting to the audio stuff, there's a lot of, why don't I include Lua in it? Sure, if you want to contribute that, go for it. Sure. Like, maybe the better question to Shipu is, could Lua be added to it as a way to handle a bunch of those things, right? Possibly. Well, I don't want to implement an interpreter myself. That's the point. I'm not interested in implementing an interpreter. What I want to do. Yeah, I know what I know what you're saying, but I wasn't suggesting I was going to implement a solution, an interpreter, or a runtime thing, right? Let me just jump back a second. So if someone wanted to add one setting to the audio stuff, right? Then they need to add it to, they first need to, okay, whatever it's going to be. Let's just say it's going to be a bool of something, right? So they need to add it to settings. If I can find settings. I've got it bigger, which means I can't see as much. So you go to settings, .h. So sound, they'd have to add something here, right? Bool audio test equals false. Okay, got to add that there. Then they have to also add it to here to be serialized. This is the macro that tells it to actually serialize the data. If it's not added here, it won't get serialized, right? They have to add it here. So I've done that, right? Then they also have to go through here and add one of these. Audio test, right? Okay. Then they have to go and create a control, and these have to be renamed. They're numbered right now, they're all over the place. I don't know what the last number is, so I'm just going to start a new number, whatever. I'm going to call it C toggle 33, because I'm going to get rid of it, okay? And it's going to be test tone. We're going to call it off, on. It needs to be given a position, and that's because I've turned the auto stacking off. I have a stacking system that'll just stack the controls automatically, but I turned that off when I was doing the caching of the things, and I haven't re-enabled it yet because it's broken. It needs to support the caching part. So anyway, for now, it's just I'm going to add it to the right-hand side, and I need to tell it there's going to be audio test, and I need to add it to the face, right? So now if I compile this and run it, we should have a new control on there. Now that's a lot of steps that someone has to do, and that still doesn't get it into the web system. That's just to add one toggle to a settings page that allows a test tone to be turned on or off. Nothing in the system uses that test tone variable yet, but just to have that happen, right? Good point, thank you. Yeah, thanks. Got too excited. Yeah, thanks, Dutch Taurus. Okay, we'll try that again. I'll recompile, it's fine. Go again. At least it's quick in the Arduino IDE. So wouldn't it be much easier if, I don't know, like it'd be not, I want to somehow work out how to simplify that. Because that's going to get triply compounded if I start trying to hook in the web stuff. Like even just having to do this, right? Ooh, buzz, 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 right? So now if I go to here and I go to audio, look, there's an extra one. See that? And that will actually remember if I, like I've done that, if I just reset the watch. See that? It remembers, right? It's been serialized. So, like maybe, and there's still nothing in the system knows that they are grouped other than they're added to a list on this particular face. So it knows what controls it has to draw. But maybe a good start would be that if they were added to a group of controls or a group of settings, right? Because it needs to be a group of settings because there'll be more settings in the web interface than there will be controls created. So maybe the settings have to be grouped into a something, and then yeah, I don't know. These are the things that keep me up at night. Because I could keep doubling down on the way it all works right now, but it's, look at it, like setting up they're just some temporary, like old things I'm keeping around, sliders and stuff. But like setting up all this haptic stuff, if haptics is enabled, or if it's available, all these different controls. Like it's just, there's a lot of things to teach people what to do in the firmware to get things implemented. And there's already a barrier to entry for the firmware and people contributing because of how big the scope of the firmware is. So making things as easy as possible. Like I hate stuff like this, right? Add messengers 1080, right? What does that even mean, right? I've got the hover over turned off right now. I wonder if, I can't remember what the setting was. You know how like it'll hover and give you the syntax? Like it'd be awesome if there were named things. Like let's name, update period, request CPU speed. Like I wish we could do this. I mean, don't tell me we can. Right? Because then you'd know what they are, rather than just some random data, yeah? And so the other thing I was thinking of was when creating faces, because some of them are a simple setup. Anyway, creating faces is, you do what Expressive do in IDF, is you create a struct with a bunch of data, and then you pass that struct to the face creator, the whatever. You pass the struct to add, and then it pulls the data out from that. So what you end up with is a, you know, something nice like whatever, face struct, messages, and it'd be like, you know, name equals messages. Oh my god, I can't type. You know, update period equals whatever. You know what I mean? And so you build a struct, and you then pass it in. that was... But that's actually a lot more code to show more clarity, because this isn't clear. And I want to extend this, like this refresh period. I want to add like some extra variables to this. It's just going to get messy. Anyway, so if there are any C++ wizards out there that want to help contribute to this, that can take on some of these things, would be awesome. Because it's pretty much like... Anyway, I was going through this list, but that's like one of the things. I can't get the web stuff done until that's solved. Backups for the settings. Wi-Fi credential caching for faster connections. Anyway, lots of things. Yeah. Okay, I've just been waffling. And people are leaving. People are bored with the chat, with the topic. Anyway, I have some watches. I am going to release them today on the store. I have updated the store. I should actually. Expected maker. Yeah, I think everyone's watching the SpaceX stuff. That's okay. I've had a whole bunch of photos, new photos I took, and I can't find them. I have actually updated the store page already. Took off the big warning that says this is not a wearable watch at the moment, because it is. I've updated stuff on there like haptics, discuss what's new in the P7 version. Boosters landed, yay! I'll watch the replay later, but thanks for the update, Sid. So the only difference between the P4 and the P7, the new version of the hardware and the old version, is obviously the addition of haptics, the removal of the second flash IC, because it's not being used. We're using a partition on the main flash. The external flash wasn't reliable. It was too easy to get the data corrupted. I've removed the battery indicator. Connector. There's no battery connector anymore. When you go to put a battery on, you have to solder the battery to the PCB. I know that sounds drastic, but it's really important because it allows almost 3 millimeters of extra room height inside the case for a bigger battery. That battery connector was dramatically limiting the size of the battery you could put in. So when you go to add a battery now, like even if you get a battery like this and it's got a connector on it, cut it and you solder the wires nice and close to the battery pads. And the battery pads are these ones here on the bottom, these two. I probably should have made them bigger, so on the next revision, whatever, like a P7.1 or whatever, when I run out of these panels, because I'm not going to waste the panels, I'll make them bigger, but they're definitely usable. But in hindsight, I should have made them a bit bigger. But yeah, you need to solder the battery directly onto the board. So little soldering required. And I've also, that's what it says, the layout changes. Large PCB layout changes to accommodate the outrageously large haptic motor driver IC, right? And to allow room for a brass insert nut to be added. So now, that cutout here I've done on the side, and this section here, what it means is there's turn that over, not only does the watch press fit together better, much stronger press fit, than what it was before, but it's also screwed together to the back with an M2 screw. So there was a lot of changes on the design to allow for that. So it was possible with the P4 version that you could drop the watch and the case would come apart. Shouldn't happen now, but you shouldn't be dropping your watch. So I've updated that. What can the firmware currently do? You can tell the time. That's a good start. It mentions that you need to go on Wi-Fi to be able to actually have the time get set. How long will the battery last? I don't give an answer, obviously. Comes pre-assembled, opening the case, comes with the case, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And I haven't got all of the hardware, or I haven't updated this yet. I still want to go through and just check a bunch of things in the design files first, but I have added a P7 and I've got a schematic in there, at least for now. So you get access to the schematic, haptic stuff, whatever, but I've yet to put IBOM or the design files because I want to make sure that I've got all the correct footprint names and everything else, whatever, like I did with P4. So I'll get that done over the next, as soon as I can, probably over the next couple of weeks. Sooner than later. So, and as I said, the firmware should be compatible with P4. Like nothing should change. It should just hide the haptic stuff. It won't show it to you, and it won't try to run it, and it should just keep working. What's issues? Battery specs. Looking to confirm. Oh right, okay. I left it there because there were some links to it. Anyway, okay, so yeah. So if you want a P7, add your name to the list. But as I said, I've got more people on the wait list than I do. Hey Matt, spoken about you 100 times today. I've got more people on the list than I have watches at the moment. But of course, not everyone that goes on the list buys. So yeah, it's cool. Like it's the case is slightly bigger than the previous one, slightly thicker. It had to be, unfortunately, but the buttons are also bigger, easier to press, and of course it still works with an Apple Watch band, no problem. But I like beyond this revision of the hardware, I don't really see anything new going to be added by me on here. By the way, that is the outrageously big chip for the haptics. I mean, it's the biggest chip on here other than the ESP32 S3, right? So, and I could have got a smaller one. I could have got a BGA one, but it would have doubled the cost of the PCBs because it needed in-pad vias, micro vias for the BGA. So I didn't want to go down that road. So I had to use the TSOP instead. It's weird with the TSOP that, like, it's not so much that the chip, I don't understand why it needs such long pins. Like, the pins could be half the length. If you look at the total width of that chip, you can't even really see on here. Can I even get it to open a new tab? Maybe I can zoom in more. There we go. Much better. You look at this whole chip here, and the width of the chip, the width of the pins, like those pins go right to the edge of the pad. I haven't extended the pads longer, right? I've actually modified the footprint because the pads are supposed to have gone an extra millimeter on each end. But if you look at the width of the pins on the left and the right, that's wider than the chip is. It's very frustrating. Anyway, it's also using a new connector. I was very happy about this change. This connector doesn't use that pushing plastic anymore. It breaks too easily and it doesn't clamp properly, and it really shit. This is a proper clamshell pushover. Locks really nicely. Yeah, anyway. I'm just waffling now. Get a wire bonding machine, then you can do the black blob chips. Oh, nah. I don't even want to build this one. Let me tell you, like, hand soldering the haptic motors onto here, total pain in the ass. Like, total regrets. I didn't go smaller than 0402 because it's open hardware. I want people to be able to make them themselves if they want to. Like, there's making something open and non-manufacturable by anyone other than me, or a really high-end production facility. Like, that's pointless. Like, I didn't want to do that. I could have easily gone 0201 for a lot of components, BGA everywhere, expensive PCBs, but there was also no advantage to making the PCB smaller. At the end of the day, I can't get these buttons any closer together. I'd still like to solve not having a USB connector. I had a few attempts before I got to this. That's why there was such a long gap between P4 and P7. I had the haptics ready on this 4 months ago. I was trying to solve the USB. I was trying to solve how do I allow for data connectivity and charging in a connector that isn't a USB connector. And unfortunately, the answer is I can't. I can't when the PCB and the screen have to be sandwiched together. And if I don't sandwich them together, then all I'm doing is removing the ability to put a battery inside it without making the case much bigger, right? So there's no point. So the reason I want to get rid of the USB-C connector is it still takes a chunk of space and height, and again, could go for a thinner, wider battery if that wasn't here, right? A battery could go all the way to the edge here. That space here, that 4 millimeters, is the difference. No, pogo pins won't work. There's no solution, trust me, right? But I'll get to all the things I tried. But that extra 3 or 4 millimeters, if you look at battery sizes, that's huge. Like that could take you from not necessarily a bigger battery, but a flatter battery. You are aware that there are maybe 10 people in the world who would build that watch from the design files if you weren't selling it? I don't know. I don't think there's anyone building it right now, but what's it like? Sure. Well, there's nothing overly hard about this. Like, assuming that they've got the parts. I guess the biggest issue is buying the parts in one-offs is not cheap. But you're talking about in terms of how complex the board is? It's not really complex. It's not hard to assemble. I've deliberately spaced everything so it's assemblable. Like, for instance, the gaps between the resistors and the caps and stuff, you can fit tweezers there. Like, I did that on purpose. I could have bunched things up much closer. So inductive charging can't happen because there's no place to stick a coil, right? So, and the coils are massive, unless you're Apple or Google and you can invest, $10 million designing your own. And over-the-air Wi-Fi isn't for everyone. Like, not when you're developing, necessarily. So having a physical connection to... Because also, not everyone is going to be buying this to wear as a watch. In fact, most people aren't. Like, people are buying it just to hack on it, to be able to do stuff with it, whatever, experiment, do whatever, and you've got to have a USB connector. Like, you got to be you have to have a wired connector. So pogos can't work because where does the pogo going to connect to? Right, like going to go through the battery to get to the PCB, right? Like you've got a screen, and then a PCB, and then a battery, and then the back of the case. So you can't come from the back. And the problem with pogos is they need to have pressure down to hold, right? And they can't be magnetic because they don't make magnetic surface mount pogos. And the only thing that's close, which is non-magnetic pogos but magnets on the sides, I've got a whole bunch of them here, all different sizes and shapes. They're massive. They're almost twice the size of the USB connector. And they need a whole chunk of space. Like they need a hole in the back of the case to be able to connect into, like a big hole. And you can't do them sideways. And the non-surface mount ones, I can't have through hole because there's a screen right on the back of the PCB, right? There's no gap for through hole in between. Like the through hole would puncture the screen. A friend did a small device like this size. He used PCB inner layer on the outside for a coil. He used PCB inner layer on the outside. Inner layer on the outside. I don't understand what that means. For a coil, he can now power charge it via induction with no separate coil of wire. Okay, not sure what you're getting at there, but that's not how inductive charging works. You need dedicated hardware on the board to be able to charge with induction or with a coil. Okay, but that's not the only part of it. But where would that go? Can't press against scallop contacts on the edge. How through the edge scallop contact? How would it stay there? How would it go? Catch you later, Gerald. 42. How would you connect it and have the actual connection stay? Like if you move the watch, it disconnects. Like it has to. If it's going to be from the side, it has to actually either magnetically connect and hold in place, or it has to insert into. Like it can't be it's got to be an actual connection. It can't be a touch because that won't work. So, and those like scallop connections, like the battery ones, there's the ones that are designed to, you push, the battery's got contacts on the sides and it gets shoved against those things. They're as big as the USB-C connector. Right? Remember, I need. It's got to be at least 4 pins that I need. Like they're big. Like I'd be getting rid of a USB connector and I'd be putting in something that's just as big, so it has all the problems that the USB-C connector has, plus it has all the problems of the fact that it's not a USB cable plugging in, it's something custom, right? And I looked at putting female sideways headers on there, like a pin header that you can connect into, which is a really ugly, bad solution because you can bend pins and whatever else. And so even putting it would have to be a 1.27 millimeter connector, which means the pins on the other end are tiny, right? And so it's easy to push it in and get it wrong and bend all the pins, and then that's a terrible experience. And it's still a custom something on the other side. You can't just go take a USB cable and plug it in, right? So, it not only has to be a solution that solves why the USB connector is a problem, and that is its size, but it also can't, in solving that, it also can't make the usability of it worse. Right, but the coil would have to go, the coil on a PCB can't be part of this PCB, which means there needs to be another PCB in there, and those two PCBs need to be connected somehow, And so you've suddenly got a much harder to assemble board. Those two things that have to be connected take up battery space. And the extra PCB, even if it's a super thin PCB, takes up battery space. Like a 1mm PCB sitting there with a coil on it that's at the back of the watch so it can be close enough, that's a 1mm less thick battery, right? And then the cable or the connection that connects those two PCBs together, that reduces the width or the length of the battery. So they've all got trade-offs, right? Can you make the USB interface as a piggyback that's I know what piggyback means. That sticks on the back. How does it connect? The PCB's on top. The bottom of a watch is here. So screen, PCB, battery, bottom. How does anything at the bottom connect to the PCB? It can't. Okay, well, in my case, there's no room for that stuff on this. It doesn't matter how many layers you go. I can't build a coil inside this on a layer that's broken up with a million wires, and going 8-layer board is ridiculous cost increase for this, for what it is, what it needs, and going buried wires to solve that would like make the PCBs 30 times the price. Like the PCBs would be as expensive as the watch, right? It's not like I'm making a million of them, so there is no reduction in cost in doing all that stuff, right? So like whatever your mate did for whatever reason he was doing it, whatever, sounds like whatever, but it's not, none of it's viable for what this project is. Is the battery the full width of the PCB? Other corners reachable? The answer to that question is, I don't supply the battery wagon loads. It's up to what people put into their watch, right? So I can't tell you that. All I can do is make sure there's as much room inside for as big a battery as possible. So like these watches from Liligo, right? Catch you later, Sid. Thanks for joining. These watches from Liligo. I mean, it's big. It's bigger than mine. Hang on. No, not that one. Okay. It's bigger. Oh, that's glare. In terms of size. And it's only about, but it's a millimeter lower. Right? No, millimeter. Yeah, about a millimeter lower in thickness. Yeah. It's deceiving. It looks thinner, but there's that round bottom, which is what Apple do on their watches to make them look thin, but it's deeper in the middle, right? But whatever. But the point is, the battery lasts 4 hours, right? So what they've done, their latest version of the watch, they've made it bigger to get a bigger battery in there. Because like, what's the point of having a watch that lasts 4 hours? So I'm not interested in sacrificing, like I'm not interested in giving people a watch that doesn't last because I've given them no ability to stick a decent sized battery in there. So charging externally like that is not on the table. Not something I'm even considering. But that's okay. I'm happy with USB charging. It'd just be nice. Look, I could put a micro B connector on there and save a bit of space. It's just the USB-C connectors, they're just large and they're deep. And unfortunately, to go for one that isn't as deep, it has to have through hole going through the bottom and adds a millimeter between the screen and the PCB. So I might save here a bit, right? I might save 2 millimeters here, but I lose a millimeter in height. So I have to make the case bigger again. You know what I mean? Like, it's already bigger than I want. So, yeah. So I tried all different things. I've got magnetic USB cable, magnetic USB cable things. I've got surface mount pogos I looked at. I've got sideways pogos. I've the magnetic, all stuff. And at the end of the day, there was no configuration that I could find without getting something custom made that was going to work, that was going to be any better than what I had with the USB. And all of them were less convenient. Like, I would have had to ship a custom cable with the watch as well. People would have to pay for a custom cable to be able to program and charge the watch, which is just crazy. The USB connector now is the only tall part now that I've taken off the battery connector. Yeah, well, it's the tallest part, but it's not the height, it's the width. Like, you can see that I'm sticking it over the edge now quite a lot to try to get more width here. Right? Pity I can't draw on there. Right, to get as much width here. And even the way I've got the brass insert happening, right? Like, the way I did it, this half circle eating right to the edge of the case, is to allow for as much width as possible. So, yeah, it's been a challenge maximizing the space. Like, I printed about 40 revisions of the case until I finally got it right. Sorry, one sec. So, like, that's the front face, the PCB. So the screen sits here, right, and the PCB's on inside, and the PCB locks in under this. That's where the haptics sits. Oops, that's where the half of the haptic sits in there. I mean, if you look, like, I'm right on the edge, like, borderline melting. Oh, I actually did on that one. How funny. Wow, I missed this one. There we go. Ooh, I think our courier is here. Like, just getting all this to fit right on the edge to be able to get it screwed together. Like, it's been an interesting challenge. Connectors that sit in the same plane as the PCB inside. Any connector's got height. Like, I don't understand. What connector? And then how do you connect a USB to it? Is there anything behind the USB? Does it mount inside a cutout? Yeah, there is. The screen. No, you can't. I can't sit between. There's a screen touching. So if I drop the USB down to sit in the middle, then the screen has to sit that much further away. I've still lost that height. I've got an air gap between the screen and the PCB that can't be used for anything. It's a total waste of space. And I still have no extra height in there. So I won't save 1.5 millimeters. I'll just move the 1.5 millimeters from this space to this space, and I'd still be left with the same height for a battery. I've gone through all of this, guys. Anything you could possibly think, oh, yay. There was a delivery outside. He just left it there. No line WM said it sits in the PCB cutout. Sits in the PCB cutout. So it doesn't go lower than. I've not seen a USB connector that sits in. I've seen ones that sit between, that the pads go on the sides and the USB sits, you know, like the PCB, so it sits above and below. Like, show me a USB connector that only goes down 1 millimeter. That also, just to be clear, that doesn't, oh my god, wrong one. And also that doesn't have tabs that, I guess I could always lose the labels. Okay, do you have an example of that USB? Do you have a part number or something I can look at? But it's not I don't know where you get 1.5 millimeters from. My PCB is only 1 millimeter thick, so I'm going to save 1 millimeter. But okay, that's 1 millimeter. I'm not sure that justifies a board revision change, because the battery isn't sitting on top of the USB connector at the moment. It's sitting up to the edge of the USB connector. So I'm not going to save any space by dropping it 1 millimeter, because I still have that height in the way. Yeah, but I don't want a header that requires pins to be connected. No, Madtech, it's fine. Do you have an example? Like, I've not seen a USB connector that sits flush with the bottom. Like, how would that happen? Because it's how do they know what height your PCB is? I've seen ones where the wings on it have the piece. It sits down into the PCB, but it sits below. I've not seen ones that are sized for 1 millimeter. Like, if you can give me an example of a part, I'll have a look at it. Absolutely. Anyway, it is what it is. This is the revision. This is the hardware going for. If someone wants to respin it and add a different way of doing it, the files will be there to do it. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to wind the stream up and pull my 3D printer apart and see if I can fix it. And if I can fix it, yeah, most of them are style for that. They drop below. Yeah, and that's the thing. The USB connectors that are shorter, the ones that can be waterproofed, right? Their pegs drop below 1 millimeter of the board, so I can't use those either. So the pegs that are on the bottom of all of my boards that I use, are 0.8 millimeter pegs. So even my thinnest board that I use, which is 0.8 millimeters PCB, the USB pegs do not go through. What?
Super chat!
Ah, Matt, thank you. You didn't have to do that.
Super chat!
Woo! Do you have a battery that you can hold next to the watch? I've got lots of batteries. I don't have an open watch, like just a PCB of a watch. But I mean, there's different size batteries. So like I've got like this in here right now. Hang on. Printer just released a new Pro printer, 11K. Rubbish. Is it April Fool's Day today? What? Is this one? No, that's the Mark IV. What? What are you talking about? Oh, you're talking about this one. Yeah, they've had their Delta ones for ages. Like, they bought that company, right? Is that the one you're talking about? Don't get me excited over something that... New window. Right. Yeah, okay. They bought that Delta company. The Delta printer company a while ago. Yeah, look at that. $15,000. That's nice. Not really what I'm after. Do I have a battery holder next to the watch? Sorry, let me going back to that. So I've currently got that size battery in here. Oops. Because I want clearance to the USB connector. Right? And if you look at how, like, that's a 500 milliamp and it's 6 millimeters thick. Right? But then you can go battery like this, which is 5 millimeters thick and wider. It takes more size. But that extra millimeter means I could get the case a millimeter thinner, right? I mean, there's all different size batteries. Right, here's a 6 that's wider again and longer. That won't fit in there, that's too long. You know, and who actually knows? I don't know, Mike, if you're still watching. Here's a 602030. So, oops, 6 millimeters by 20 millimeters by 30 millimeters. That's 500, apparently 500 milliamp hour. And your one, which is 500 milliamp hour, is 6 by 25 by 35. So this is apparently quite a bit smaller. But who knows if it's really 500. I can't show you on the PCB because I don't have they're all built inside things. So I don't think I've got a PCB lying around. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Like, I know what it is. Like, I know how much space there is. And so how the watch is how the watch is. Yeah. Maybe one of these USB-C. You can't post links. 4 milliamp, 502335. Right. That's the same as this one. 502530? Oh no, 5025. Oh, you went 2535. Okay, right. I love Scotch. You can't post. Do you have a product code? Wake up. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to pull my printer apart, I think. I don't know what /short/ oh, it's a DigiKey. I can just hang on. DigiKey. Accept all cookies. Oh God, what is it? Copy. Oh, not on the thing. Coding. Yeah. Append that to DigiKey. I can't find the product code. Yeah, that URL doesn't work. Oh, hang on. Can you just give me the product code for it? Right. Maybe that'll work. So what was it? Which one? That's given me a whole bunch of them. What's the main goal of the watch? There are cheaper ways to tell the time. What are you looking to do with the watch? Do that a watch doesn't do. I'm not looking. I wanted the challenge of designing and building a watch. So I designed and built a watch, and I made it open source so other people can benefit from it. That was it. That was my whole purpose. I'm not trying to solve anything with it. It was a technical challenge, which is now draining a lot of my effort on a firmware side, more than I expected it would. Like I thought more people would want to contribute to a watch, an open source watch framework, but maybe not. I don't know. Well, clearly not. So yeah, it was just I wasn't trying to make a watch like a commercial watch. It was never a commercial project. Commercial as in, you know, the intent was never for people to go to a store or go somewhere and buy a watch. But I don't. That code you gave me isn't actually showing me a product, so I don't know which one you were talking about. What was the product code of the USB you were talking about? Like I can't use. Hang on. Or are you trying to show me ones that sit down below? Is that what you're trying to show? Because all of these will sit below the board. And then I can't use something like this, which is shorter in length, because all of the legs on them stick through the PCB. So what is that? Okay, $4 a well, that could be Aussie. Anyway, start sheet. We're trying to compete with Apple or something. I would want to compete with Apple. Why would I want to compete with Apple? Really? Yeah, no. Why would I? Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that goes into the cutout. I'm curious to see how far below 1.13. Oh, that's to there, so that's not all the way down. That's to the top of the opening. But I'm interested. Like the length of it seems to be quite narrow. It's only, God, these dimensions. I want to know from front to back of the pins. There's no mention of the screen cable on the product page. Do we have to source that separately? The screen cable? The screen comes connected. Forget about that product shot. The screen, what do you mean? It's the cable is on the screen. Graham, is that what you're talking about? You don't have to source anything other than the battery. You don't have to source anything. Like it all comes together. Like the screen connects. Oh, sorry, wasn't even on the camera. Like it's all part of the thing. Like, is that what you meant? Yeah. I need to find, I've got product photos somewhere. I need to find them, fix them up. You can't see how the screen connected to here. to this connector. There's a connector here. This white thing is a connector. As I said, there's just a bad, like I don't have, I need to find the photos. That's why I haven't updated yet. No, it's not in the photos. As I said, I've got product photos. I have to find where I put them. I don't know where I put them. And I don't really want to take new ones. Oh, I wonder if, actually, hang on. Like, I'll still have them on the SD card, but I'd already gone through and modified them. I probably want to take new ones though. Right. There. Right, I don't have any that are, so like, you know, I got stuff like this that have to go, I need to clean them up and put them on the store. But like that, they're the parts, but the, I guess I should take a photo of the screen connected to the watch. Anyway, I've got to go through all my photos. But that's why I've got this lens on here, because I was going to just take new ones. Yeah, no, it's all good. That's all good. No problem, mate. Oh, there we go. Well, actually, that's actually funny.
Hey everyone, when you get your TinyWATCH,
I should do a, so the case design is different now. But like here, for instance, that's upside down. That's from the video for P4, but you can see there how it's connected. That's the P4 version of the watch. I need to redo this because the case is different. The way you assemble it is different now. Lots of stuff to do to release this. Like, seriously, way more things than I was planning. But I'm getting there. Like, I need to do the... Oh, where's did I put this? So the firmware, I've got the latest firmware on here, but if you look at the release notes, TBA, because I haven't done them yet. But I checked this works already this morning. Like a wireless mouse charging dock. But I can't have them on the edge because there's no way to put them on the edge. And there's no way to have them connect. Anyway, it's, I mean, design something. Like, it's not something I'm going to implement. Firstly, I don't think it's, I don't think there's a solution, not one that I'm going to be happy with. Not the one I'm going to be happy with supplying and asking people to do. But that doesn't mean that it can't be done in a particular way. So I'm happy for someone else to give that a go. I mean, you know, you can try it with the P4 design files that are up there. KiCad, the files are there. But you know, like it's the whole point of making it open source is for other people to contribute, for other people to try stuff, for other people to do things. Not for me to have to do them all. I've looked into it. I spent a long time looking into it, and I can't find anything that I'm happy with as a solution that does that works as well as a USB-C connector. That doesn't do as much harm as good, right? I can't find anything that I'm happy with. But if other people find things that they're happy with, go for it. That's totally fine with me. When am I adding the TV module? Well, technically, I mean, Chris has done, he's got movies playing back on something similar, so he can, yeah, anyway, the whole point of of making YouTube streams is that you don't have to make things yourself. Sure. But then you also don't get to decide what's being made, right? To ship it? Like, that's cool. Like, it's not like I haven't made a completely functioning watch, right? Like, it's got all, like, other than a temperature sensor, which I think is, you know, you can't just take an off-the-shelf temperature sensor and stick it on a watch like this and have it be in any way accurate, right? Because you're enclosing it and you don't know what size battery is going to be in there and what's going to interfere with it, whatever else. So, you know, other than putting a temperature sensor in it, like, what else do you need? And like, it's got everything. Like, you know, anyway. Right, absolutely. You don't need to decide, you express opinions, but at the end of the day, like, you know, people are welcome to state their opinions and ways to solve it, but they're not things I'm going to try, or they're not things that I can necessarily think are going to work. But I'm happy to be proved wrong if someone else wants to try it. That's all. Opinions are fine. Well, no, you wouldn't be measuring your body temp because there'll be a battery in the way, which gets warm, and there's a PCB in there that gets warm, and you're enclosing it all, which means that you're completely hampering the sensor, and then when you connect it to the internet, it's going to get twice as hot. And so the data you're getting out of a temperature sensor is going to be 100% useless. Like, it's not going to tell you anything that's in any way meaningful, right? I want a microwave oven in a watch. If you can find me little chickens that fit inside that, I'll consider it. Can you Wi-Fi to an external box to add these functions like a temp sensor without making the watch dust water sensitive? Can you Wi-Fi to an external box? Well, you can, but you don't need to. Like, I mean, with open weather, you can find the temperature. Or are you talking about the temperature in your environment? I mean, sure, you could connect to something else that's reading the temperature. Absolutely. Batteries with built-in wireless charging? Not that I know of. Not that I've heard. Lasers. Yeah, we need lasers. Pew, 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 pew. Lasers. It's not that I'm getting defensive to Shipu, but like the question's like, yeah. There's a level of not listening to Sion's answers that happen in the same scope of I need to get someone needs to tell me their suggestion, right? Like I already said, I've looked at putting female headers on and pins to connect into it instead of a USB connector, and well, firstly, if it was a 2.5mm header, it'd be bigger than the USB connector, and it'd have to be to get the size down, like it wouldn't fit. To get the size down, it's got to be 1.27mm connector, and I don't think that the idea of asking people to connect little tiny pins into the side of the watch and line them up and not bend the pins is a good user experience, and it would require a custom cable to go with the watch for people to be able to flash it or charge it at an extra expense, right? Like, I said all those things already, and so I discounted that as something I didn't want to do, and then it was suggested to me to put like DuPont connecting on there. Like, do you understand? Like that's the part that's frustrating. But no. If you want to relax me, caffeine relaxes me. No. No, it's all good. No worries, Peter. Catch you later. I'm talking any function that you might want, so like GPS, that would be too big to fit in the watch, but still want to use the screen. Well, I can't use the... Like, you'd have to put a... So if you set up an ESP32 or a Raspberry Pi, if you had a Raspberry Pi sitting there that had a temperature sensor on it and GPS and whatever else, and it was sitting there and it was broadcasting the stuff via MQTT, for instance, yeah? Well, you could have the watch read those MQTT messages and show them on the watch. So the watch would show that it's that many degrees, and it would show the GPS readings of the Pi, not of the watch. But I guess you could technically do those things on an ESP32 with a battery that was sitting in a backpack that connected, that the watch would read from, and you could go out on the street walking around and the watch could be showing you a display of the data from that. Absolutely, that could be done. I mean, yeah. What's a DVM? Oh, chocolate cake would make... No, I don't think sugar would make me relaxed, but chocolate cake would make me happy. Yes. Black Forest cake would make me happier. Are you offering, Alan? What's a DVM? Wagon loads? Digital voltmeter? Is that what you meant? Wi-Fi connect to an ADC. Well, you could Wi-Fi connect to another device that then does whatever and gives you readings back. Absolutely. So you could do that through MQTT, or you could do it through ESP Now. Like if it was an ESP32 on the other side, then you could have them connect ESP Now between the two, like a permanent connection that would, yeah, you could do stuff like that. Absolutely. But the question is, would that second device be portable or not? Like, because you'd get out of range from it. I have to come all the way past you? Can't you come past me, Alan? I guess if you're baking the cake, then it's only fair that I come past you. Sure. Let me check my calendar. I'll get back to you. Don't start making the cake yet, though, just in case. So there could be like a TinyWATCH buddy that has a whole bunch of stuff on it, right? That's interesting. It could be another, it could be on the second arm. So you could have your watch, TinyWATCH here, and you could have the accessories here. And so this doesn't have a screen, and it just has a small battery because it doesn't need, whatever. And it could have a temperature set. It could have all the things that you can't squeeze into the watch side because of all of the stacking limitations. And you could have, it could be a GPS on there, and it could be a temperature sensor, and it could have, I don't know, it could be a bigger speaker. Like it could have like I2S audio with a big speaker on there. The whole front could be a speaker, and then they could be connected via ESP Now. That's actually an interesting concept. Honestly, like that is an interesting concept. As a, who has spare time to work on it, I don't know, but I think that would be fun. My family has good friends in Sydney, Australia, although a bit far from you. I think Sydney's a little bit closer than where you are, but yeah. I'm a lot older than you, but I remember a time when Casio made a watch that had a TV built into it. Yes, so do I. You're not that much older than me, mate. Trust me. There was a box that sat in your pocket and had a cable run down. Yep. I definitely need a coffee. Although I've already had 2 today, just to be clear. I need food. I'm feeling a bit, yeah. I am 53 this year. So I'm not over the halfway mark to 60, but then I have near Next time you're in Sydney, I will fly to Sydney and we'll catch up, Alan, for sure. It's 6 years. I mean, I'm sure, but that's, yeah, I remember that. I didn't have one. Like, I don't know anyone that had one, but I remember that with the wire into the pocket and the TV watch, and it was terrible. Like, the screen quality was so bad. Yeah, I used to feel a lot younger, but no, I'm not. I wish I was younger. I really do. But, you know, seems to be nothing I can do about that, unfortunately. But, yeah, I'm definitely older than I look. Definitely older than I act. I act like a child most of the time. Just ask my wife and kids. Oh, really? You don't think you'll take the trick again? See, in my case, it's not in my head. It's in my arthritis in my shoulders and arthritis in my knees and chilblains in my fingers. That's where it is for me, not so much in my head. Tishipu. I wish it was in my head, because then I could talk myself out of how old I feel. But I'm really feeling it these days, I gotta tell you. Mind over matter, sure. Yep, gotta stay positive. It's all about being positive. Okay, I need to go pull the printer apart. I'm procrastinating because I really don't want to do it. It's really is a lot of complex steps, it looks like. Actually, I have a... Wait. Where's it going to open? Right, this is what I have to do now. That I'm going to have to start. So, I have to replace this heatbed signal cable. So, they're all the tools I need. I need a hairdryer. Great. I've actually got one downstairs. So, step one. You're going to pull the printer apart, put it on its side. Blah, blah, blah. Got to pull all these screws out the back. I gotta all these screws, get all these out. These screws, cable railing, get all that out. Disconnect the heatbed signal cable from those places.
Alan Madsen says, do the 3D printer update on a live stream.
No, I don't.
Slightly smiling face.
Yeah, I would not have the patience for that. You would see me rage like no tomorrow. Anyway, got to remove the holding plate. Look at all this stuff. Got to remove the heat bed. Got to remove the leveling nuts. So this is what's failed on mine. One of these leveling sensors, there's a piezo sensor underneath these things, is reporting that it's not working. And I have swapped the cable and the sensor and the control board, which, not that one, it looks like, is there a picture? No. I've swapped them from number one, so that's number one and this is number two. It's my number one that has failed. I swapped everything over from this side to this side and the problem didn't move. So it's not this, it's somewhere further back. So I bought a replacement ones of these, and they don't sell these replacement cables, which is really frustrating, because it could be, because they're two different cable lengths, it could be that cable, but I don't know. But I've bought a replacement one of these and replacement this cable here, and it's this cable here that I need to replace. So look at this, they're still pulling apart. This is where they're swapping the cable over. And then it's got to come back together again. So 13 steps to be able to swap a cable over. Build a robot arm live on stream. That sounds like a good idea. Yeah, no, I'm going to need to concentrate on this because I'm going to break something. But anyway, I'm not feeling like I'm excited to do this. But while I'm doing it, I'm going to give the printer a really good clean out. But they seem to think it's this cable. I don't know. I don't see how. If it's this cable, right, which goes to this board, and then this board controls the 3 sensors. There's one sensor here, one sensor here, and one sensor here. If only one of the sensors is failing, yeah, then how can it be this cable that goes to this board? If this cable was bad, all the sensors would fail. How can only one sensor fail on this cable coming into here? So it could be this board. So I've got a replacement of those, and I've got a replacement of these other boards. So anyway, I'm not looking forward to this. I'm going to go get probably another coffee. I'm going to get some breakfast, and I'm going to see if I can get my printer working. That's the plan. So yeah, okay, folks. Thank you all for joining today. Sorry if I was shitty with anyone. I apologize. You all know me by now. Quick to tantrums. That's me. Yeah. I'm going to go eat some food. I'm going to pull the printer apart. And I'll let you all know if I'm buying a new one, because I've broken it and I can't fix it.
Alan Madsen says night to some and good day to others.
Yeah. Night to some, good day to others. And fingers crossed I end up with a printer that is no worse than it is right now when I'm finished doing whatever I'm doing right now.
Alan Madsen says night to some and good day to others.
Right, didn't you just say that? Repeat. What's going on? Anyway, bye everyone. Take care. Catch you next week.